The iron wheels screamed against the rails as the train shuddered to a stop at Silver Bluff Station. Steam hissed from the engine, hanging in the September air like ghosts. Clara Hart pressed her gloved hand against the window, watching the platform materialize through the vapor. Rough planks, a water tower, and beyond that, the endless Montana sky. She'd left Boston 43 days ago with Edmund Denton's letters tucked in her traveling case. Mail order bride. The words tasted bitter as week-old coffee, but choices were few for a woman of 26 with no family and dwindling savings. Edmund's proposal had seemed respectable enough, a dry goods merchant, widowed, seeking companionship and help with his business. The porter set her trunk on the platform with a thud that echoed her heartbeat. Clara smoothed her navy traveling dress, the best of her 3 good dresses, and stepped down. The air hit different here, thin, sharp, carrying the scent of sage and horse leather. "Miss Hart?" She turned to find a thin man with pomaded hair and a merchant's soft hands. Edmund Denton looked older than his letters suggested, his mouth pinched like he'd been sucking lemons. "Mr. Denton." She offered her hand. He barely touched her fingers before dropping them. "There's been a change in circumstances." The platform tilted slightly. Or maybe that was just her. "I don't understand. My situation has altered. I've decided against remarriage." He pulled out a leather pouch, coins clinking. "For your troubles, the return train leaves tomorrow morning." The crowd gathering at the platform edge stirred like wheat in wind. Whispers rose and fell. Mail order bride, sent back, poor thing. Clara's spine straightened of its own accord. She'd scrubbed floors in Boston. She'd survived typhoid. She wouldn't crumble now. "Keep your money, Mr. Denton. Compensation isn't the same as honor." The voice came from behind her, low, steady as bedrock. Clara turned to see a man built like he'd been carved from the landscape itself. Broad shoulders, sun-weathered face, eyes the color of winter sky. His hat shadowed his features, but she caught the hard set of his jaw. Edmund's face flushed. "This isn't your concern, Carver." Wade Carver. Even in Boston she'd heard that name. Owned the largest ranch in 3 counties. The kind of man who could buy Edmund's store with pocket change. "Maybe not." Carver's voice carried no heat, just fact. "But leaving a woman stranded reflects on all of us." A commotion erupted near the freight depot. Horses reared as a wagon lurched sideways, its wheel catching in the platform gap. Barrels tumbled like dominoes, one rolling straight toward Clara with the momentum of a cannonball. She froze. The barrel filled her vision. Iron bands, splinters, death rolling at 30 miles an hour. Strong hands grabbed her waist, lifting and spinning her clear. The barrel crashed into the bench where she'd stood, wood exploding into kindling. Clara found herself pressed against Carver's chest, his arms steel around her waist, her hands clutching his coat. He smelled of leather and wind and something indefinably safe. "You hurt." His breath stirred her hair. No. Her voice came out steadier than her knees felt. He set her down gentle as handling china, but didn't immediately let go. His eyes searched hers, not the way men usually looked at women, measuring beauty or counting assets. He looked at her like he was reading trail signs, learning something essential. "Thank you," she managed. He touched his hat brim and stepped back. The crowd pressed closer now, excitement over near-death mixing with the scandal of a rejected bride. Edmund had vanished like smoke. "Miss Hart," Carver's voice cut through the chatter. "You have plans." "I'll manage." The lie came automatic. She had $43, 3 dresses, and no return ticket. The Riverside takes lodgers. Clean place. He paused, and she saw him make some internal calculation. "I'm looking for a housekeeper. Temporary position, 3 months through winter. Room, board, fair wages. End of term, you choose. Stay on, or I'll buy your passage anywhere you want to go. First class." The offer hung between them like a rope bridge over a canyon. Behind her lay humiliation and an empty boarding house room. Ahead, who knew? But his eyes held no improper speculation, no trace of the looks she'd dodged in Boston. Just a straight business proposition from a man who'd literally pulled her from death's path. "Your wife wouldn't object." "No wife, just me, my foreman, and 15 hands. Big house going to waste." The crowd leaned in. sensing drama's next act. Clara thought of her mother's voice. When one door closes, find a window. When the window's locked, build your own door. I accept your offer, Mr. Carver. 3 months, as agreed. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. Wade, just wait out here. He picked up her trunk like it weighed nothing. Wagons this way. The crowd parted, their whispers following like tumbleweeds. Clara kept her chin high, her stride steady. Let them talk. She'd faced worse than gossip. The wagon sat sturdy and plain, built for work, not show. Wade set her trunk in back, then offered his hand to help her up. His palm was calloused as tree bark, strong enough to crush but gentle in its grip. The ranch is 2 hours north, he said, settling beside her. Roads rough in places. I'm not made of glass. The ghost of a smile touched his mouth. No, I don't believe you are. He clicked to the horses and the wagon rolled forward. Clara didn't look back at the station, at Edmund's store, at the pointing fingers and wagging tongues. The road stretched ahead, rutted and uncertain, leading toward mountains that scraped the sky. Why? She asked, when the town shrank to miniature behind them. He knew what she meant. Man who can't honor his word in small things can't be trusted in large ones. Besides, he glanced at her sideways. Takes courage to step off that train knowing what waited. Takes more to stand straight when it went sideways. Ranch life isn't easy. I need someone with backbone. And if I disappoint, then come spring, you'll have first-class fare to anywhere. I keep my word, Miss Hart. Clara, she corrected. If we're to work together. This time his smile was full, transforming his weathered face. Fair enough, Clara. The horses kept steady pace, and she found herself relaxing into the wagon's rhythm. The landscape rolled past, grass an ocean of gold and green, sky so vast it made her chest ache, mountains standing guard on the horizon. A red-tailed hawk circled overhead, riding thermals she couldn't see. It's beautiful, she said, then felt foolish. What did beauty matter when survival was the question? Has its moments, has its teeth too. Winter comes hard and fast. Summer burns everything brown. Land doesn't forgive mistakes. Neither did Boston. He cut her another glance. Where'd you learn to stand so steady when the world tilts? My mother died when I was 12. Father followed 2 years later. Lung fever from the factories. Been making my own way since. She kept her tone matter of fact. Pity was another luxury she couldn't afford. You learn to bend or you break. Or you learn when to stand firm. He navigated around a pothole deep enough to swallow a calf. Like back there with Edmund. Pride's all some of us have to keep. Pride and backbone, good combination for ranch work. They rode in companionable silence for a while. Clara found herself studying him sidelong. The way his hands held the reins firm but not tight. How he read the road ahead like a book. The patient set of his shoulders. He drove like he spoke. No wasted motion. Everything with purpose. Tell me about the ranch, she said. Triple C, Carver Cattle Company. 8,000 acres, 2,000 head. Run it clean, treat the men fair. House needs work. Been just men too long, but it's solid. Stone foundation, good roof. You'll have your own room, lock on the door. Meals with the hands or kitchen, your choice. The propriety of it eased another knot in her chest. And my duties? Keep house, manage meals. The men cook breakfast and supper for themselves in the bunkhouse. But I take lunch at the main house. Laundry once a week. Ranch accounts if you've got the schooling for it. My foreman Silas handles them now, but his eyes aren't what they were. I kept books for a millinery shop in Boston. I can manage accounts. Good. Fair warning. The men are rough-mannered but respectful. Anyone gives you trouble, you tell me or Silas straight off. I don't tolerate nonsense. She believed him. Something in his tone suggested troublemakers would deeply regret their choices. The sun climbed higher, warming her face. Her traveling dress felt heavy, impractical for this place. But she'd adapt. She always had. There, Wade pointed ahead. Triple C land starts at that ridge. Clara saw fence posts marching toward the horizon, wire strung taut between them. Beyond that, the land rolled in waves of grass, dotted with cattle like black boats on a golden sea. In the distance, buildings clustered. House, barn, and outbuildings arranged with tactical precision. It's larger than I expected. Started with 160 acres and a dozen cows. Built it piece by piece, every post, every wire, every building. Know them all by feel. The pride in his voice wasn't boastful, just fact. This was a man who'd created something from nothing, who'd carved civilization from wilderness through will and work. As they descended toward the ranch, Clara felt the wheel of fortune turning. This morning, she'd been a failed mail-order bride. This afternoon, what? Housekeeper seemed too small a word for what lay ahead. This felt like standing at a crossroads where the old maps ended and new territories began. One more thing, Wade said, as the ranch buildings grew larger. I should have asked before. You have any conditions? Things you won't do or can't abide? The question surprised her. When had anyone asked what she needed? I don't abide cruelty, she said finally, to animals or people, and I'll need Sunday mornings for myself, church if there's one nearby, or just quiet time. Nearest church is in town, but Reverend Hayes rides circuit once a month, holds services in our main room. As for cruelty, his jaw tightened. Man who'd hurt something weaker than himself has no place on my land. They rolled through the ranch gate, under an arch made from a massive timber with CCC burned deep into the wood. Dogs ran out barking, horses lifted their heads from the corral, and men emerged from various buildings to see who'd come calling. Wade pulled up at the main house, 2 stories of solid timber and stone, wide porch wrapped around 3 sides, glass windows that must have cost a fortune to freight in. It looked like it had grown from the earth itself, sturdy and permanent as the mountains beyond. Welcome to the CCC, Clara. She climbed down before he could help, needing to meet this new world on her own feet. The men had gathered at respectful distance, curious but not crowding, weathered faces showing cautious interest. Boys, Wade addressed them. This is Miss Clara Hart. She'll be keeping house for us through winter. You'll treat her with the same respect you'd show your mothers and sisters, or you'll answer to me. Clear. A chorus of "Yes, boss" rumbled through the group. Clara noted how they stood, easy but attentive, the way good soldiers stood near a commander they trusted. Silas. Wade beckoned to a grizzled man with sharp eyes and steady hands. This is my foreman. He'll help you settle in, show you where things are. Silas touched his hat. Ma'am, welcome. His voice carried Scottish hills underneath western dust. Thank you, mister. Just Silas, ma'am. We don't stand much on ceremony here. Wade lifted her trunk again. I'll show you your room. Silas, have someone bring up water for washing. Supper's at 6? Unless the sky falls, Silas confirmed. Inside, the house revealed itself slowly. Entry hall with coat hooks and boot rack. Parlor with furniture built for durability over beauty. Kitchen that made Clara's hands itch to set it right. Good bones, but suffering from male neglect. Wade led her upstairs to a corner room with 2 windows, a bed with actual springs, dresser, washstand, and small writing desk. Was my sister's room, he said, setting down her trunk. She married a banker in Denver 5 years back. Keeps asking me to visit, but... He shrugged. Ranch doesn't run itself. It's perfect. She meant it. After boarding house cubicles, this felt like a palace. I'll leave you to settle. Privy's out back, pumps in the kitchen. Any questions, just ask. He paused at the door. Clara, that took sand today. Standing up to Edmund, accepting my offer without knowing me from Adam. Either very brave or very desperate. Maybe both. Both works fine out here. He touched his hat and was gone, boots steady on the stairs. Clara sat on the bed, testing the mattress. Real springs, clean linens, a room of her own with a door that locked. Through one window, she could see the barn and corrals. Through the other, grassland rolled toward mountains that touched the sky. She unpacked slowly, hanging her 3 dresses, setting her few books on the desk, placing her mother's silver brush on the dresser. Each item claimed space, made this real. At the bottom of her trunk lay Edmund's letters tied with string. She held them for a moment, then dropped them in the empty chamber pot. Come morning, they'd serve a more useful purpose than they ever had as promises. A knock interrupted her thoughts. A young ranch hand stood in the hallway with a bucket of steaming water and clean towels. Ma'am, Silas sent these up. Thank you. Buck, ma'am. Buck Morrison. He couldn't be more than 19, all knees and elbows and eager smile. Real glad you're here. Gets mighty tired of beans and salt pork. She hid her smile. I'll see what can be done about that, Buck. He brightened like she'd promised Christmas and nearly tripped over his feet leaving. Clara poured water into the basin, unwound her traveling hair, and washed the train soot and platform dust from her face. In the mirror, a woman looked back. Not young anymore, not old yet, marked by loss but not broken by it. A woman who'd stepped off certainty's cliff and found, unexpectedly, that she could fly, or at least glide. Through the window, she watched Wade talking with his men near the corral. He moved with economy of motion, every gesture deliberate. A man who said what he meant and meant what he said. 3 months he'd offered. 3 months to prove herself, to decide her path, to build something more than survival. Clara straightened her spine, pinned up her hair, and prepared to meet her future. Whatever it held, it had to be better than the past she'd left on that platform. And if it wasn't, well, she'd survived worse. She'd survived this too. But watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold, hearing the cattle low in the distance and the men's voices rise in rough harmony from the bunkhouse, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Small as a mustard seed, fragile as spring ice. But there all the same. Sometimes that's all a person needed. A door cracked open, a hand offered in honest dealing. A chance to prove that backbone could be worth more than beauty and pride, more precious than gold. The dinner bell rang across the ranch, calling all hands home. Clara smoothed her second-best dress and headed downstairs to begin earning her keep in this wide, wild place where the sky went on forever and a woman might just find room to breathe. The rooster crowed at 4:30 sharp, but Clara was already awake, staring at the ceiling beams in the pre-dawn darkness. First morning at the Triple C. Time to prove she belonged here with more than brave words. She dressed by lamplight. Her plainest dress, the brown calico she'd saved for hard work, pinned her hair tight, tied on the apron she'd found hanging behind the door. The house lay quiet as a held breath. Through her window, stars still pricked the sky like scattered salt. The kitchen waited like a test. Cast iron stove cold and black, pump handles stiff with nighttime chill. Clara built the fire with methodical care, kindling, then larger wood, adjusting the damper just so. Her mother's voice echoed, "A good fire's like a good reputation. Build it steady and it'll serve you all day." Water from the pump ran rust-colored at first, then clear and cold. She filled the coffee pot, set it on the stove, and surveyed her battlefield. The kitchen had good bones, solid counters, ample shelves, a pantry door that didn't sag. But Lord, the neglect. Grease filmed every surface, dishes stacked haphazard. Something sticky had been spilled on the floor and left to become part of the landscape. First things first. Coffee strong enough to float a horseshoe. That's what working men needed. She found the grounds, measured generous. While it brewed, she explored the pantry. Flour, thank heaven. Salt pork, beans, potatoes growing eyes, precious little else. She'd need to speak with Wade about supplies. The back door banged open at 5 sharp. Men trooped in. 15 rough faces, hair slicked with pump water, shoulders hunched against morning cold. They stopped short seeing her. "Morning, ma'am." Silas led the greeting, hat in hand. "Good morning. Coffee's ready. Cups are—" She looked around, spotted a shelf of mismatched mugs. "There." They filed past like schoolboys, murmuring thanks. She watched them settle at the long pine table. Each man clearly had his spot, established by time and hierarchy. Wade's chair at the head sat empty. "Boss doesn't take breakfast with us," Silas explained, reading her glance. "He's out checking the herd, been up since 4. Clara nodded, filing the information. She pulled the skillet from its hook. Cast iron, well seasoned beneath the grime. A quick scrub, then onto the heat. Salt pork sizzled, filling the kitchen with smoke and scent. "Biscuits?" she asked the room at large. Buck's head snapped up like a hunting dog. "Ma'am? Can't have breakfast without biscuits." The mix came together under her hands. Flour, lard, buttermilk from the springhouse. She'd made 1,000 batches in harder times, hands working without thought. Roll, cut, onto the pan, into the oven. While they baked, she scrambled eggs in the pork drippings, set out plates, found a crock of apple butter hiding behind pickles. The men watched sidelong, trying not to stare. She kept her movements calm, efficient. Let them see she knew her business. Grubs ready. They fell on the food like wolves, but polite wolves. Please and thank you and mighty fine rumbled around mouthfuls. The biscuits vanished first. She made mental note. Double batch tomorrow. Where you from, Miss Clara? That from a weathered hand with kind eyes. Tom something. Boston. Long way from home. This is home now. Nods around the table. They understood that. Most of them had come from somewhere else, drawn by land and possibility and the chance to be more than what birth had made them. After breakfast, she studied them as they headed out. Silas organized with quiet authority. 2 men to ride fence, 3 to the horse pasture, others to various tasks. Wade appeared from the barn, spoke briefly with his foreman, then strode toward the house. Clara had the kitchen half clean by then, attacking grease with hot water and determination. He paused in the doorway, taking in the changes. Coffee, she offered. Obliged. She poured, watched him cup the mug in hands that dwarfed it. He smelled of horses and morning wind. Biscuits were good. Men haven't stopped talking about them. It's just flour and lard. Nothing special. It is when you've been eating Buck's cooking for a month. The smile creased his eyes. Speaking of which, supplies. Make a list of what you need. Silas goes to town Saturdays. The pantry's fairly bare. Get what you need, within reason. I'm good at stretching $1. I'm sure you are, but feed them well. They work hard. A man with a full belly works better than one thinking about his hunger. She liked that, practical kindness. I'll have lunch ready at noon. I take mine at 12:30, usually in the office. I'll show you where. He drained the cup, set it by the pump. You settling in all right? Fine, thank you. Good. He turned to go, then paused. Clara, the house hasn't seen a woman's touch since my mother died 6 years ago. Whatever you think needs doing, do it. You don't need permission to make things right. After he left, she stood still a moment, absorbing the weight of that trust. Then, back to work. The kitchen first. She couldn't cook proper in a pigsty. Scrub the stove, scour the table, organize the shelves. Everything had its place in her mother's kitchen. Everything would here too. By 10, the kitchen gleamed. Not fancy. It would never be fancy, but clean as honest work could make it. She explored the rest of the house, mapping her new territory. Dining room with a table that could seat 20. Wade's office, desk overflowing with papers, ledgers stacked on shelves. 2 parlors, one clearly for business, one that might have been pleasant once but now felt abandoned. Upstairs, Wade's room, door firmly closed, her own, and 4 others gathering dust. The whole place felt like a house in mourning. Functional but not alive. Well, she'd see about that. Lunch required strategy. Stew from last night's leftover beef. Potatoes rescued from sprouting. Onions discovered hiding in a sack. Fresh bread. She'd learned that secret in the boarding house. Men would forgive much if you fed them warm bread. At 12:30 sharp, she knocked on the office door. Come. Wade sat behind the desk, ledgers spread like maps. He'd shed his coat, sleeves rolled up, and she couldn't help noticing the strength in his forearms, the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders. She set the tray down harder than necessary. Smells good. He moved papers aside. You don't need to knock. Office is open during working hours. I'll remember that. She turned to go. Join me. She stopped. That wouldn't be proper. According to whose rules? He gestured at the chair across from him. I'd like to discuss the house arrangements. Easier done over food than shouting across the kitchen. She sat, perched on the edge like a bird ready for flight. He pushed a plate toward her. Tell me what needs fixing first. Business, then. She could do business. Supplies, as discussed. The stove needs blacking. Several windows stick. There's a board loose on the back steps. Dangerous in winter. The spring house door doesn't latch proper. He wrote as she talked, quick notes in a strong hand. What else? The men's laundry? They do their own mostly. Sheets and such once a week would be appreciated. They'll pay extra for personal items. Socks, shirts, $1 a month per man usually. $15 extra. In Boston, that was a month's rent. I can manage that. Good. What about the house itself? She chose words carefully. It's well built, solid, but it feels abandoned, like everyone's just camping here temporary. Something flickered in his eyes. That's one way to put it. My mother made it a home. After she died, he shrugged. Men don't think about curtains and such. Would you mind if I made some changes? Nothing costly. Just arranging things different, maybe some sewing. I said you don't need permission. I meant it. He studied her over his coffee cup. You always this careful about overstepping? I've learned to be. Hard teacher experience. He pushed back from the desk. I'll get Tom to fix that board today. The windows might need to wait for Sunday. Anything urgent? No, thank you. She gathered the dishes, acutely aware of him watching. Not the way Edmund had looked, calculating worth like pricing goods. Wade looked at her like he was reading weather signs, trying to understand patterns and possibilities. That afternoon, she attacked the laundry. The wash house sat behind the kitchen. Tubs, scrub boards, a stove for heating water. She sorted piles, set water to boil, rolled up her sleeves. Physical work felt good after years of careful stitches in the millinery shop. Here, effort showed immediate results. Need help with the wringer? Buck stood in the doorway, eager as a puppy. If you can spare the time. He bounded forward. Together they fed sheets through the wringer, him cranking while she guided fabric. He chattered about ranch life, who did what, which horses bit and which were gentle. Information gold, delivered free. Mr. Wade seems a fair boss, she ventured. The best. Doesn't ask anything he wouldn't do himself. Pays on time, too, not all do. Buck's face darkened. That Crowley outfit to the south, they'd steal milk from a baby and call it business. Crowley? Big syndicate buying up land. They wanted the Triple C bad, but Mr. Wade won't sell. Makes them mighty unfriendly. He caught himself. Sorry, ma'am. Shouldn't gossip. It's not gossip if it's useful information. She fed another sheet through. Are they dangerous? Mr. Wade can handle them. Buck's faith was absolute. He's face down worse. By evening, sheets hung like white flags across the yard. Clara's back ached. Her hands were raw, but satisfaction warmed her chest. Visible progress, the best kind. Supper was simple. Beans seasoned with pork, cornbread, canned peaches for dessert. The men cleaned their plates, Buck going so far as to lick his spoon before remembering manners. After they left, she made 2 plates, knocked on the office door. Thought you might be hungry. Wade looked up from his ledgers, lamplight catching the planes of his face. Starving, lost track of time. She set his plate down, took the chair opposite without asking this time. They ate in companionable silence. Night sounds drifting through the window. Cattle lowing, a coyote's distant call, wind in the cottonwoods. Good day? He asked finally. Productive. I'll need lye soap on that supply list, and bluing for the wash. Noted? Men behaving? Perfect gentlemen. They better be. No jest in his tone. You made quite an impression. Silas says they're already taking bets on tomorrow's breakfast. What are the odds on pancakes? His laugh surprised them both, rich and full, transforming his face. I'll put $5 on pancakes myself. Then I'd better make eggs. She surprised herself, teasing him. But his laugh had loosened something, made the space between them easier. Contrary woman. Practical. Can't have the boss losing money on a sure bet. They finished eating, conversation drifting to ranch matters. He asked her opinion on purchasing winter supplies, whether she preferred wood or coal for the stove, if she needed help with heavy work. Practical talk, but underneath she sensed him taking her measure still, fitting her into the ranch's rhythm. I'll say good night, she said finally, gathering dishes. Clara. His voice stopped her at the door. That schedule you're planning, the one on the slate board I saw you hanging. Smart thinking. Structure helps. Heat touched her cheeks. She'd thought he was out when she'd hung it. Men work better knowing what to expect. So do women, I expect. Yes. Then we understand each other. Good night. Walking back to the kitchen, Clara felt the shape of her new life settling around her like a well-worn coat. Wake before dawn, feed hungry men, wrestle dirt into submission, sleep earned by honest labor. Not what she'd imagined boarding that train in Boston, but somehow more real than all Edmund's promises. She pumped water to wash dishes, watching lamplight from the office window spill gold across the yard. Inside, Wade worked late over his ledgers, planning and calculating, holding his empire together through will and careful management. Two solitary people sharing a roof, each carrying their own load. But maybe, she dried the last plate, hung it on its hook. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was how homes got built in this wild place. One meal at a time, one clean sheet at a time, one day following another until the temporary became permanent and the house became home. The chalkboard caught her eye. Monday, washing. Tuesday, ironing. Wednesday, baking. Thursday, mending. Friday, heavy cleaning. Saturday, town, supplies. Sunday, rest, light duties. Structure indeed. A framework to hang a life on. Tomorrow she'd make those pancakes just to see him smile again. Tonight she'd fall asleep to the sound of wind in grass and dream of nothing at all. That too was progress. The scream cut through the afternoon quiet like a rusty blade. Clara dropped the bread dough she'd been kneading and ran toward the sound, flour still dusting her hands. Behind the barn, chaos. Men clustered around something on the ground, voices sharp with urgency. A horse, a young bay, danced nervous at the corral fence, stirrups flapping empty. "Give her room!" Silas's command parted the crowd. Buck lay twisted in the dirt, face white as fresh paper, left arm bent at an angle that made Clara's stomach lurch. Blood ran from a gash above his eye, painting half his face crimson. His breath came in short, painful gasps. "Horse spooked," Tom explained quickly. "Threw him into the fence post." Clara pushed through, dropping to her knees beside the boy. "Don't move him yet. Buck, can you hear me?" His eyes rolled, found hers. "Hurts. I know. Where's the doctor?" "Doc Morrison's 20 miles out delivering the Garrett baby," someone said. "Won't be back till tomorrow, maybe day after." Clara's mind raced. "In Boston, you called for help. Out here, you became the help or watched people die. I need hot water, clean cloth, whiskey." She kept her voice steady as her mother's had been that night Papa came home with his hand mangled from the factory machines. "Silas, find me 2 straight boards for splints. Tom, get rope. Wade, where's Wade?" "Riding the north pasture. Someone's gone to fetch him." No time to wait. Buck's breathing grew more ragged, shock setting in. Clara ran her hands gently over his ribs, feeling for breaks. The boy cried out when she touched his left side. "Ribs too, then. All right. Buck, look at me. Just at me." She kept talking, nonsense mostly, while her hands worked. "Check the arm. Clean break below the elbow, thank God. No bone through skin." The head wound bled fierce but wasn't deep. The ribs worried her more. Men brought what she'd asked for. She cleaned the head wound first, whiskey making Buck howl. "I know it stings. You're being brave." She threaded a needle with steady hands. "This will hurt worse. Someone hold his shoulders." Silas and Tom pinned him gentle but firm. Clara stitched quick and neat, 7 stitches, each one precise as any she'd done on silk bonnets. Different material, same principle. Make it tight, make it last. Now the arm. This was the test. She'd watched a doctor set her father's broken finger once. Watched and remembered, because you never knew what knowledge might save you. "Buck, I need to straighten your arm. It'll hurt like the devil, but then it'll be over. Can you be strong for me?" He nodded, tears leaking from his eyes. Barely 19, trying so hard to be a man. "Silas, hold his shoulder. Tom, when I say, pull his hand straight and steady. Not hard, just firm. Wade?" She looked up to find him there. Must have arrived while she worked. "Hold him still." Wade's eyes met hers, reading the question there. She saw his answer, trust and necessity mixed. He braced Buck's torso with careful strength. On 3, 1. She positioned her hands on either side of the break. 2. Drew breath deep. 3. Tom pulled. She guided the bones, feeling them grate and shift. Buck screamed raw. Then, a subtle click, pieces finding their place. "Done! Good boy! The worst is over!" She splinted the arm, swift and sure, wrapping it tight. The ribs she bound carefully, enough support to heal, but not so tight he couldn't breathe. Through it all, Wade's presence anchored the scene. Solid, calm, trusting her hands. "Let's get him inside. Gentle now." 4 men lifted Buck like precious cargo. Clara directed them to one of the empty upstairs rooms, had them lay him on clean sheets she'd just washed that morning. "He needs watching tonight," she said, mixing willow bark tea for the pain. "Fever might set in, or the ribs could shift." "I'll sit with him," Tom volunteered. "No." Clara tested the tea's temperature. "I will. This is my responsibility now." Wade studied her, blood still on her apron, hair escaping its pins. "You've done this before." "Not a question." "My father, factory accident. We couldn't afford a doctor most times." She helped Buck sip the tea. "You learn or you lose people." "We're grateful." He meant it, she could tell. "The men, we look after our own. But this," he gestured at Buck, bandaged and breathing easier. "This is beyond what we could have managed." "It's what needed doing." The room emptied slowly, men touching their hats, murmuring thanks. Only Wade lingered. "You'll need supplies, real medical supplies. I'll make a list." She wrung out a cloth in cool water, laid it on Buck's forehead. "Laudanum would help if the doctor has any to spare. Proper bandages, carbolic for cleaning wounds." "You'll have it." He moved toward the door, paused. "Clara, that was remarkable." She kept her eyes on Buck. "That was necessity." His footsteps faded down the hall, but his presence seemed to linger. The memory of his hands steady on Buck's shoulders, the way he'd trusted her without question when it mattered. Night fell slow. Clara lit the lamp, settled in the chair beside Buck's bed. He drifted in and out, sometimes lucid, sometimes lost in fever dreams. She bathed his face, checked his bindings, listened to his breathing. Near midnight, Wade appeared with coffee and sandwiches. "Thought you might be hungry." "Thank you." She accepted the cup gratefully, warmth seeping into tired hands. "He's holding steady. Fever's not too high." Wade pulled up another chair, movements quiet for such a large man. "Tell me about your father. The factory accident." Strange conversation for midnight in a sick room, but the darkness made confidences easier. He worked at a textile mill. Machines were always hungry, for cotton, for profit, for flesh when you weren't careful. His hand got caught in the gears. "You fixed it?" "Best I could." He kept 3 fingers, could still work some. Died 2 years later from lung fever, but not from that injury. She checked Buck's pulse, found it steady. "My mother was already gone. I was 14, old enough to know we couldn't afford help, young enough to be fearless about trying. That's young to carry such weight. We all carry what we must." She met his eyes across the lamplight. "You run this ranch, hold all these lives in your hands. That's weight too. Different kind." "Is it?" She adjusted Buck's blanket. "You make decisions every day that affect whether these men eat, whether their families survive. You face down syndicates and weather and market prices. Don't diminish what you carry because it's familiar." He was quiet long enough she thought she'd overstepped. Then, "My father built this place from nothing. Died when I was 22, left me in charge of everything. I've made mistakes, lost cattle to blizzards, men to accidents, money to bad decisions. Sometimes the weight." He stopped, shook his head. "But you're still here. The ranch survives. The men stay." She understood the need to name fears in darkness. "That means something." "Like keeping 3 fingers means something?" "Exactly like that." Buck stirred, moaning. Clara helped him sip water, checked his temperature. The fever had peaked, starting its slow retreat. "He'll live?" Wade asked. "Barring infection or complications, yes. The arm will heal clean if he doesn't use it too soon. Ribs take longer, but he's young. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of us. I couldn't have managed alone." "But you would have tried." She considered that. "Yes, I suppose I would have. That's what I saw at the station. Not just backbone. Plenty of people have that. But the willingness to try when trying seems impossible. That's rarer." Heat touched her cheeks. She busied herself straightening supplies to hide it. "Anyone would—" "No." His voice carried quiet certainty. "They wouldn't. Most would have waited for the doctor, wrung their hands, maybe said prayers. You saw what needed doing and did it. My mother used to say that hesitation kills more people than mistakes. Smart woman. She was." Clara smiled at the memory. "She'd have liked this place, the honesty of it. Work that matters, results you can see. No pretense or false promises. Is that what Boston was? False promises? She thought of Edmund's letters, careful lies wrapped in flowery prose. Among other things, here the challenges are real, but so are the rewards. A broken bone set proper, a meal that fills hungry men, clean sheets on beds. Small things, but true. Not small. Wade leaned forward, elbows on knees. You've been here a week. Already the house feels different. Alive again. It's just cooking and cleaning. It's homemaking. Different thing entirely. He stood, stretched. I'll send Tom to relieve you in a few hours. No need. I'll stay. He shouldn't wake alone and confused. Wade studied her, hair half down, dress wrinkled, eyes shadowed but determined. You don't have to prove anything, Clara. You already have. I'm not proving. I'm finishing what I started. Something shifted in his expression. Respect deepening to something warmer. Then I'll check on you at dawn. After he left, Clara allowed herself a moment of pure exhaustion. Her shoulders ached from tension, her hands trembled slightly from the precise work. But Buck breathed steady, his color improving. She'd done that. Taken a boy broken and bleeding and pieced him back together with nothing but memory, necessity, and steady hands. The lamp burned low. She trimmed the wick, settled back in the chair. Outside, night sounds continued. An owl calling, wind through grass, the eternal whisper of the ranch breathing around them. Near dawn, Buck woke clear-eyed. Miss Clara, right here, how do you feel? Like I got stomped by a bull, but alive. He tried to move, winced. My arm? Broken but healing. You'll be good as new in 6 weeks if you follow orders. Yes, ma'am. He paused. They say you fixed me up real good, like a real doctor. Just did what was needed. No. His young face was serious. Tom told me he thought I was done for, said you worked like you had angels guiding your hands. The only things guiding my hands were necessity and a good memory. Maybe that's how angels work, through folks' hands when they're needed most. The simple faith in his words caught her throat. She smoothed his hair back, maternal instinct surprising her. Rest now. Healing takes energy. Wade found them there at sunrise, Buck sleeping peaceful, Clara dozing in the chair. She woke to his hand gentle on her shoulder. Morning, he said soft. How's our patient? Better. Fever broke around 3. He'll be sore but whole. And you? She stood, stretching stiffness from her spine. Tired but satisfied. There's something clean about fixing what's broken. Simpler than navigating what's bent but not quite broken enough to mend. He caught her meaning. Edmund, promises, the complicated disappointments of civilized life. True enough. Come on, I'll walk you to your room. The men can manage breakfast this once. No. She smoothed her skirts, pinned up loose hair. Routine matters more when things go sideways. I'll rest after breakfast is served. Stubborn woman, practical woman. But she smiled, taking the sting from it. Though I'll take that walk to my room tonight, if the offer stands. After a full day upright, it stands. His smile transformed his weathered face. Anytime you need it. They went downstairs together, into a new day. The men were already gathering, word of Buck's survival spreading like sunrise. They looked at Clara different now, not just the housekeeper, but someone who'd proven herself in the currency that mattered most out here. Competence under pressure, steady hands in crisis. She made breakfast, those pancakes she'd promised, while accepting quiet thanks and answering questions about Buck's care. The work grounded her, familiar rhythm soothing after the night's intensity. But something had shifted in the night, subtle as seasons changing. She felt it in how Silas deferred to her opinion on Buck's diet, how Tom offered to help with heavy work without being asked, how Wade watched her from his seat with something new in his eyes. Not just respect now, recognition. One survivor seeing another and understanding the steel beneath the surface. She'd come here as a failed mail-order bride, accepting charity disguised as employment, but somewhere between stitching flesh and setting bones, between midnight conversations and dawn's quiet triumph, she'd become something else. Necessary. The words settled into her bones like truth, not just useful or helpful or convenient. Necessary, as vital to this place as rain for the grass or winter snow for spring growth. Clara Hart, late of Boston, stood in her kitchen feeding hungry men while blood still stained her apron and satisfaction sang in her veins. Whatever came next, 3 months or 3 years or 30, she'd meet it with steady hands and clear eyes. She was home. The smell hit Clara first, coal oil, sharp and wrong in the evening air. She'd been closing windows against the coming storm when the scent drifted up from below. Wrong place, wrong time. The lamp oil was kept in the storage shed, not near the barn. Through the kitchen window, shadows moved where no shadows should be. Her blood chilled. "Martha!" she hissed to Silas's wife, who was helping with the evening dishes. "Get the shotgun, now!" Martha, bless her, didn't question. The older woman moved quick and quiet to the corner where the Winchester waited. They'd become friends these past weeks, 2 women holding down the fort while their men worked the range. "What is it?" Martha whispered, checking loads. "Coal oil, near the barn." Clara's mind raced. Wade had ridden to town for the marshal. Trouble with rustlers had been building for weeks. Silas was at the line camp. Most of the hands were scattered across the range, moving cattle to higher ground ahead of the storm. A flicker of light. There, a figure with a torch, creeping toward the barn where 30 horses stood in stalls. The Crowley syndicate making their move when the ranch was most vulnerable. "They mean to burn us out," Martha breathed. Clara's hands were steady as she took the second shotgun from the rack. "Not tonight." She eased open the window, bracing the gun on the sill. The range was long for a shotgun, better for close work, but she needed to stop that torch before it reached the barn. 1 shot. Had to count. The figure raised the torch higher, preparing to throw. Clara squeezed the trigger. The blast shattered the quiet. Glass from the window sprayed back, catching her cheek. The torch flew wild, landing in dirt instead of dry hay. The man crumpled, clutching his shoulder. "Pour water on that torch," Clara ordered Martha, already reloading. "Move!" More shadows scattered from the barn. 3, maybe 4 men. Clara fired again, high but close enough to send them diving for cover. Her ears rang from the shots, but she heard shouting, boots, running. A rifle cracked from somewhere outside. Wood splintered from the window frame, inches from her head. "Down!" She pulled Martha to the floor as another shot punched through the wall above them. On hands and knees, they crawled to the other window. "How many?" Martha panted. "Too many." Clara's mind worked fast. "They'll try to circle. Come at the house." "The bell," Martha said. "Ring the dinner bell. The boys will hear it." Yes, the iron bell could be heard 2 miles off. Clara belly crawled to the door, gathered herself, then burst out running. Bullets whined past like angry hornets. She grabbed the bell rope, pulled hard and fast. The bronze voice boomed across the range. "Danger! Danger! Danger!" A man came around the corner of the house, rifle raised. Clara dropped, rolled, came up with a shotgun. The blast caught him center mass, spinning him back into the darkness. Back inside, Martha had barricaded the door with the kitchen table. 2 down, she reported, practical as bread. But there's more out there. They took positions at opposite windows. Clara's hands stayed steady even as her heart hammered. This was different from setting bones. This was protecting home, protecting everything Wade had built. Hoofbeats thundered in the distance. Help coming, but whose? Clara chambered another shell, waiting. A figure broke from the shadows, running for the house with something burning in his hand. Another torch, or maybe dynamite. Clara led him with the barrel, squeezed smooth. He tumbled, the burning object rolling harmless into the dirt. 3, Martha counted. The hoofbeats grew louder. Then, Wade's voice, roaring commands. The Triple C riders swept into the yard like cavalry, guns blazing. The remaining attackers scattered, firing wild as they fled. Clara kept her position until she saw Wade dismount, until she was sure the threat had passed. Only then did her hands begin to shake. "Clear!" Silas called from outside. "They're running!" Martha unbarred the door. Men flooded in. Tom, Jake, others she'd fed 100 meals. Their eyes went wide, seeing the 2 women with shotguns. Spent shells on the floor, gun smoke still hanging in the air. Wade pushed through, taking in the scene with one sweep. His gaze found Clara. Blood on her cheek from glass, dress torn, hair wild. Something fierce blazed in his eyes. "You hurt?" "No, just scratches." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "They meant to burn the barn. We stopped them." "We?" He looked between her and Martha. "You two held off Crowley's men?" "3 down," Martha reported with grim satisfaction. "Maybe 4. They won't be burning anything tonight." Wade moved closer to Clara, fingers gentle as they turned her face to the light. "This needs cleaning. Later. The barn is safe. Tom, Jake, check for more coal oil. Post guards." His thumb brushed glass from her cheek, the touch careful as if she might break. But his eyes saw the truth. She was iron tonight, not porcelain. "Come on, let me tend these cuts." He led her to the kitchen, sat her in a chair. His hands were gentle as he cleaned the wounds, picked out tiny shards of glass. She watched his face, the controlled fury there. "They came when they thought we were weakest," she said. "They thought wrong." He daubed whiskey on a cut, making her hiss. "Sorry, I've had worse." "I know." His hands stilled. "Clara, what you did tonight, what we did, Martha was right there with me. Don't," his voice was rough, "don't diminish it. You saved the barn, maybe the ranch, definitely saved lives. Those horses would have died horrible if the fire had caught. I couldn't let that happen. This is—" She stopped, uncertain how to finish. "Home," he completed. "This is home." "Yes." His hands resumed their work, infinitely careful. "I should have been here." "You were doing what needed doing. We were doing the same." She caught his wrist, stilled his movements. "Wade, this is what partners do. Cover each other's backs." "Partners." He tested the word, eyes searching hers. "Is that what we are?" The kitchen felt too small suddenly, too warm despite the night air through broken windows. Clara was acutely aware of his nearness, the heat of his hands, the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders. We should check on the men." He let her pull away, but his gaze held questions that would need answering soon. Outside, the ranch buzzed with activity. Men doused the torch sites with water, checked every building for hidden threats. The marshal had arrived, taking statements, examining the scene. Clara found herself giving testimony, clear, precise, no embellishment, just facts. The marshal, a weathered man named Daniels, listened with growing respect. "Ma'am, you probably saved this ranch tonight. Takes nerve to face down armed men." "Takes more nerve to try burning sleeping horses," she replied. "At least we had a choice." 3 bodies lay covered in the yard. Crowley's hired guns, faces she didn't recognize. She felt no guilt. They'd come to destroy, and she'd protected what mattered. Wade appeared at her elbow as the marshal prepared to leave. "Crowley will answer for this. Law's on our side now." "Watch your backs," Daniels warned. "Cornered snakes strike hardest." After he left, Clara realized she was swaying on her feet. Adrenaline had carried her this far, but now exhaustion crashed down like a hammer. "Inside," Wade ordered. "You're done for tonight." She didn't argue, letting him guide her up the stairs. At her door, she paused. "Wade, when you build something good, there will always be those who want to tear it down. Speaking from experience. Boston taught me that. Men who couldn't build anything themselves, so they destroyed what others made." She touched the bandage on her cheek. "But here's different. Here we fight back." "We," he repeated. "I like the sound of that." "So do I." He reached past her to open the door, and for a moment they were close enough to share breath. Clara's pulse jumped, recognizing danger of a different kind. "Good night, Clara. Good night." She closed the door, leaned against it, heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with gunfights. Through the window, she watched him cross to the bunkhouse, stopping to check on the posted guards, always responsible, always protective. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman she barely recognized, hair wild, dress blood-stained, eyes bright with leftover battle fire. Not the careful Boston seamstress, not the failed mail-order bride. This was someone new, forged in necessity and tested by fire. She cleaned up slowly, hands finally starting to shake as reaction set in. But underneath the tremors was something solid, satisfaction. She'd protected what mattered, stood her ground, proven herself in the only currency that counted out here. Through the night she heard boots on gravel as men kept watch. The ranch was alert now, ready. They'd learned Crowley's measure tonight, cowards who struck at the weak. But they'd also learned something else. The Triple C wasn't weak. Not with women like her and Martha holding the line, not with men like Wade and Silas leading the charge, not with hands like Tom and Jake and Buck, still healing but fierce in defense of home. Clara fell asleep to the sound of vigilant footsteps, the shotgun propped within reach. Tomorrow would bring consequences, legal battles, maybe more violence. But tonight, they'd won. The barn stood. The horses lived. The ranch endured. And somewhere in the darkness, she knew Wade kept watch too, protective of all he'd built and all he was coming to value, including, maybe especially, the woman who'd stood between his life's work and destruction, armed with nothing but nerve and necessity. Partners, he'd said, testing the word. Yes, Clara thought, drifting toward dreams. Partners sounded exactly right. The saloon reeked of whiskey and unwashed men. Clara stood just inside the door, letting her eyes adjust to the dimness. She'd come to town for supplies, but Martha had grabbed her arm at the mercantile. Wade's at the saloon. Trouble brewing. Crowley's men are liquored up and talking big. Now, Clara understood why. 3 of Crowley's hired guns held court near the bar, voices loud with false courage. Wade sat alone at a corner table, coffee cup in hand, seemingly unconcerned. But Clara knew him well enough now to read the tension in his shoulders, the careful positioning that kept his back to the wall and gun hand free. Sheriff Daniels stood by the bar, trying to keep peace. Now, boys, let's all calm down. Calm! The biggest of Crowley's men, a brute named Harlan, slammed his glass down. They killed 3 of ours. 3 men who came to burn a barn full of horses, Wade said quietly. At night, like cowards. Harlan's face went red. You calling me a coward? I'm calling things what they are. Wade didn't raise his voice, didn't move. Your men came armed to destroy property. They got what men like that deserve. From women! Another of Crowley's crew spat tobacco juice on the floor. Hiding behind skirts now, Carver. Clara felt the insult like a physical blow. Before she could think, she was moving forward. Those women faced your men straight on, with shotguns, in the open, nothing hiding about it. Every head turned. Wade's eyes widened slightly. Surprise, then something that might have been pride. Harlan laughed ugly. Well, look here, the mail-order bride nobody wanted, come to defend your meal ticket? I came to buy flour. Clara kept her voice level. But I'll defend the truth anywhere I find lies being told. Big words for a woman. True words. Your men came in darkness to burn sleeping animals. We stopped them. If that bothers you, perhaps you should hire better men, or fight your battles in daylight. Harlan stood, chair scraping, 6 feet of muscle and mean. Maybe I should teach you some manners. Wade started to rise, but Clara's hand motion stopped him. This was her fight now. You're welcome to try. She stood straight, chin up. Though I should mention, I've already shot 2 men this week. My aim's improving with practice. The saloon went dead quiet. Someone whispered, That's her, the one who held off the raid. Harlan's hand twitched toward his gun. Sheriff Daniels stepped forward. Nobody's shooting anybody in my town. Harlan, you touch that iron and I'll jail you till Christmas. No need, Sheriff. A new voice from the stairs. Marcus Crowley himself, dressed like a banker, soft and dangerous. Mr. Harlan, stand down. Harlan backed off, reluctant. Crowley descended, smiled at Clara like a snake eyeing a mouse. Mrs. Hart, isn't it? Or Miss? One hears different stories. Miss Hart. She didn't give ground. And you're the man who sends others to do his burning. Careful, Miss Hart. Slander's a serious charge. So is arson, attempted murder, destruction of property. She smiled, sweet as poison. But I'm sure Sheriff Daniels will sort it all out in court. Crowley's eyes went cold. Courts can be unpredictable. Evidence disappears. Witnesses forget. Sometimes accidents happen on the way to testify. Wade stood then, slow and deliberate. That sound like a threat to you, Sheriff? Sure does, Daniels agreed. Just observing how dangerous the world can be. Crowley straightened his cuffs. Why, poor Miss Hart here could slip on a boardwalk, break her pretty neck. Tragic. The room temperature seemed to drop. Wade moved closer to Clara, not touching but present. Anyone who touches her answers to me. And me, Silas said from the door, backed by Tom and Jake. And us, added voices from around the room. Ranch hands, townsmen, even the bartender. Crowley's smile faltered. He'd miscalculated, threatened a woman who'd earned respect by standing between danger and innocence. "We'll see what the court says," he managed. "Yes," Clara said. "We will. I'll be there to testify. So will Martha. So will every man who rode in that night. Your hired guns against our truth." Truth. Crowley tasted the word like something bitter. "We'll see what truth buys you." He swept out, Harlan and the others trailing. The saloon exhaled collectively. "You all right?" Wade's hand found her elbow, steady and warm. "Fine," but her knees felt weak now that danger had passed. "I just came for flour. Come on." He guided her out, past backslapping men calling her Miss Clara, with new respect. On the boardwalk, she breathed deep of clean air. "That was foolish," Wade said. "Walking into the middle of that." "Maybe, but they insulted—" She stopped. "What? Their courage? Their home? Him?" "I know what they insulted." His hand still on her arm, thumb brushing the fabric. "Thank you for defending it." They walked toward the mercantile, gathering stares and whispers. News traveled fast. Clara Hart facing down Crowley in the saloon. By nightfall, it would be legend. "He threatened you," Wade said quietly. "That changes things. I'm not running. I'm not asking you to." They stopped in the alley between buildings, semi-private. "But Clara, I need to know. What is this, between us?" The question she'd been dodging for weeks, since the night she'd sewn his wounds, since moments stolen in lamplight, conversations that ran deeper than employer and employee. "I don't know," honest as she could be. "I know I'm supposed to leave in 6 weeks. I know this started as business, but Wade," his free hand cupped her face, gentle as handling spun glass. But when Harlan threatened you in there, I wanted to shoot him myself. When you're gone overnight, I can't sleep for listening. When you smile at breakfast, my whole day brightens." The words tumbled out, unstoppable. "That's not business." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He kissed her then, there in the alley with the town around them. Not passionate, too public for that, but sure and claiming and promise deep. Clara's hands found his shoulders, holding on as the world tilted. When they broke apart, his eyes were dark with things unsaid. "This complicates everything." "I know. Crowley will use it against us. Say I'm keeping you for improper reasons." "Let him. We know the truth." "Do we?" He pulled back slightly. "Clara, I won't have you staying from obligation or gratitude or lack of options. If you stay, it has to be because I choose to. Because this is home. Because—" She gathered courage. "Because I'm falling in love with you, Wade Carver. Inconvenient as that is." His breath caught. "Clara, you don't have to say it back. I know you're still—" He kissed her again, cutting off words. This time there was heat in it, promise and frustration mixed. "I'm not still anything. Haven't been since you stepped off that train and refused to bend. But Clara, I need you to be sure. This life, it's hard, lonely, dangerous, as you've seen. I've lived hard. I've been lonely. As for dangerous," she touched the healing cut on her cheek. "I'll take honest danger over safe lies any day. Then we'll face Crowley together, all of it together." He stepped back, propriety reasserting itself. "But first, let's get that flour. And Clara, next time there's trouble in the saloon, wait for me. Only if you promise the same." His laugh was rueful. "Fair point." They emerged from the alley to find Martha waiting with a knowing smile. "About time, you two. Half the county's been taking bets on when you'd figure it out." Clara blushed. Wade looked resigned. Nothing's private in a small town. Nothing that matters anyway. Martha linked arms with Clara. "Come on, let's get supplies while Wade handles his business. We've got strategy to discuss." "Strategy? For the trial, the ranch, and whatever fool thing these men cook up next." Martha's eyes sparkled. "Men think they run things, but we know better. Now, let's talk about the real important issue. What you're wearing to court." Wade watched them go, something soft in his expression. Tom appeared at his elbow. "Boss, Crowley's heading for the courthouse, probably trying to buy the judge." "Let him try." Wade's jaw set. "Judge Patterson's honest as they come, but Tom, Double the guard on the house. If Crowley can't win legal, he'll try other ways. Already done. Nobody gets near Miss Clara without going through us. Good man. Wade headed for the courthouse, mind already on legal battles ahead. But part of him stayed with Clara. Her courage in the saloon, her honesty in the alley, the way she'd said love like it was both burden and blessing. The fight ahead would be ugly. Crowley had money, connections, hired guns. But Wade had something better. Good people willing to stand together. And Clara, unexpected gift in a hard season, proving again that the best things came not from planning, but from providence. 6 weeks left on their agreement. But already Wade knew. Some contracts were written in ink, others in blood and trust and the slow recognition of finding what you didn't know you were looking for. The trial would come. Crowley would scheme. Danger would circle like wolves in winter. But today, Clara Hart had stood in a saloon full of rough men and claimed her place, had kissed him in an alley and spoken of love, had chosen this life with eyes wide open. Wade Carver had built his empire with will and sweat and years of sacrifice. But empires were just dirt without someone to share them with. And Clara, brave, steady, surprising Clara, was exactly the partner he'd never known he needed. The courthouse loomed ahead, another battle waiting. Wade squared his shoulders and went to meet it, carrying the memory of Clara's kiss like armor against whatever came next. Together, she'd said. He was starting to believe that together they could face down anything, even Marcus Crowley and all his hired darkness. The trial would tell. But Wade was a gambling man when the stakes mattered, and he'd bet everything on the woman who'd walked into a saloon and claimed her ground. Some fights were worth any risk. This one, Clara, the ranch, the future, was worth them all. Dawn painted the sky pink and gold as Wade helped Clara into the wagon. Ready? Yes. She smoothed her skirts, trying to calm butterflies. He'd been mysterious about this morning's destination, saying only to dress warm and bring her appetite. They rode in comfortable silence, leaving the ranch buildings behind. The road followed the creek, winding through cottonwoods whose leaves whispered secrets in the morning breeze. Clara found herself watching Wade's profile, the way early light caught the silver threading through his dark hair, how his hands held the reins with easy confidence. "You're staring," he said without looking over, admiring the view. His smile creased weather lines around his eyes. "The mountains are that way." "I've seen mountains." They rounded a bend, and Wade pulled the horses to a stop. There, in a clearing where the creek curved lazy, stood the skeleton of a house. Foundation stones solid and square, wall frames reaching skyward, fresh lumber golden in the morning sun. Clara's breath caught. "Wade, been working on it weekends, started before you came, but—" He wrapped the reins around the brake, turned to face her. It took on new meaning after. She climbed down before he could help, drawn to explore. The foundation was larger than she'd expected, room for a real home, not just shelter. Through the framed doorway, she could see where rooms would be. A kitchen with windows facing east for morning light. A parlor with views of the mountains. Upstairs, she counted 4 rooms, space for family, for future. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Wade joined her in what would be the kitchen. "My parents built their first house in a week. 1 room, dirt floor, paper windows. This," he gestured at the careful construction, "this is meant to last. Like the ranch. Like everything worth building." He pulled something from his pocket, a small leather box worn smooth with handling. "This was my mother's. Her mother's before that. Came west in a wagon, survived floods and fires, and Lord knows what else." Inside the box, a ring caught morning light. Not fancy. Garnets instead of diamonds. Gold worn thin in places. But the setting was intricate, careful work by someone who understood that beauty lived in details. Clara Hart. Wade's voice went formal, serious. "I'm not good with pretty words. Don't know how to court proper. But I know what I want, and that's you. Not as housekeeper. Not for 3 months or 3 years. For always." Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. "Wade, let me finish, please." He took a breath like a man preparing to lift something heavy. "I know you've been let down before. Know you came here expecting one life and found another. But Clara, sometimes the best things come sideways, unexpected. You did for me. She thought of that first day, standing on the platform, world tilting. How he'd pulled her from the barrel's path, how everything since had been building to this moment in an unfinished house full of possibility. "I'm not an easy man," Wade continued. "Set in my ways. The ranch will always demand attention. There'll be hard years, drought, disease, markets failing. Danger, too, as you've seen. But Clara, I'll stand between you and any harm that tries to come. I'll work every day to make you glad you chose this life. And I'll never, ever make promises I can't keep." The ring trembled slightly in his steady hands. This man who faced down gunmen without flinching was nervous about her answer. "Yes," Clara said simply. "Yes?" Like he needed to be sure. "Yes to all of it. To you, to this house, to whatever comes." She held out her hand, watched him slide the ring home. Perfect fit, like it had been waiting. "But Wade, I have conditions." His eyebrow raised. "Conditions? When the house is done, I want a proper library, with real books, not just almanacs and stock journals. Done. I want to keep teaching the ranch children their letters, maybe start a school eventually. The county needs one, yes. And Wade," she stepped closer, hands on his chest. "I want partnership, real partnership, not just in the house, but the ranch. Teach me the business side. Let me help with more than cooking and washing. Clara, you held off a raid. You saved Buck's life. You're already partner in everything that matters." His arms came around her, solid and sure. "But yes, full partnership. Might shock the county, but they'll get used to it." "Good." She rose on tiptoes. "Then kiss me properly. We're engaged now. It's allowed." He laughed, the sound rich in the morning air. Then obliged thoroughly. When they broke apart, both breathing unsteady, he rested his forehead against hers. "There's more to see. Come on." He led her through the house frame, pointing out planned features. The kitchen would have a proper stove, ordered from Denver. The parlor, a fireplace big enough to heat the whole floor. Upstairs, the main bedroom faced east. Morning people, both of them. "This room," he said, stopping at a smaller frame. "I thought maybe a nursery. Eventually, if we're blessed that way." Clara's throat tightened. "I'm not young, Wade. 26. There might not be." "Then there won't be. We'll have each other. That's enough." He meant it, she could tell. "But if children come, they'll have this view. Mountains to dream on." They stood quiet, imagining. Then Clara noticed fresh scratches on his hands, a bandage peeking from under his cuff. "You've been building this yourself?" "Mostly. Silas helps when he can. Tom's good with a hammer." He shrugged. "Wanted it to be personal. Something made, not just bought. Like the ranch. Like us," he corrected. "Built careful, one day at a time." They explored more, the root cellar already dug. The well positioned for easy access. Wade had thought of everything, planned for permanence. This wasn't a bachelor's compromise, but a family home, meant for generations. "When?" Clara asked finally. "The trial's next week. Like to have that settled first, then—" He considered. "Month, maybe? Frames up, roof next. Could be livable by Christmas if weather holds. And the wedding? Soon as you want. Tomorrow if you're willing. Though Martha might skin us for not letting her plan something." Clara laughed. "She would. Next month, then? After the trial, but before deep winter?" "Perfect." He touched the ring on her finger, still looking slightly amazed. "You really said yes. Did you doubt?" "Hoped. Didn't dare assume." They walked back toward the wagon, hands linked. "Clara, about the trial. Crowley will try to use us against each other. Make it ugly, personal. Let him try. We'll tell the truth. They came to burn. We defended. Simple as that. Nothing simple when lawyers get involved. He'll bring up Edmonton, maybe. Try to make you look compromised." Heat touched her cheeks, but her chin stayed high. "I came west in good faith to marry. When that fell through, I took honest work. If that compromises me, then the whole system's compromise." "That's my girl." Pride colored his voice. "We'll face them together." At the wagon, he helped her up, hands lingering on her waist. "One more stop before home. Lead on." He drove to a small cemetery on a hill overlooking the valley. Stopped at 2 stones marked Carver, hat in hand. "Mother, father," he said quietly. "This is Clara, the one I mentioned." He looked embarrassed but continued. She's agreed to marry me. Thought you should know. Clara stepped down, knelt by the stones. Mrs. Carver, Mr. Carver, I'll take care of him. And the ranch, I promise. Wind stirred the grass around them. Wade helped her rise, something soft and grateful in his eyes. They'd have liked you, he said as they walked back. Ma especially. She was strong like you, steady when things went sideways. Tell me about them. As they drove home, he painted pictures with words. His father, young and ambitious, seeing potential in empty land. His mother, Eastern educated but prairie tough, making beauty from nothing. How they'd built the Triple C through drought and plenty, Indian troubles and market crashes. They loved this land, he finished. But more, they loved what they built on it. Community, purpose, future. Like you do. Like we will, he corrected. Together. The sun climbed higher as they rolled through the ranch gate. Men working nearby stopped to wave, and Clara saw knowledge in their grins. News traveled fast. Their morning absence hadn't gone unnoticed. Brace yourself, Wade warned as Martha emerged from the house, practically vibrating with curiosity. Well, the older woman demanded, don't just sit there grinning like fools. Is there news? Clara held up her left hand. Martha's whoop could probably be heard in town. About time. Oh, we have planning to do. The dress, the food, the flowers. Simple, Clara interrupted gently. Please, just family, the ranch family, and whatever's in season. Simple, Martha huffed. As if any wedding could be simple, but we'll see. Now come, both of you. Breakfast is waiting, and you can tell me everything. Over eggs and celebration, Clara found herself watching Wade. Her fiancé now. Strange, wonderful thought. He caught her looking, smiled that private smile that transformed his weathered face. Under the table, his boot touched hers. Small contact, but it sang through her like lightning. This was real. The ring on her finger, the house taking shape by the creek, the man across from her solid as mountains and twice as enduring. She'd stepped off a train 2 months ago with nothing but wounded pride and stubborn hope. Now she had home, purpose and love building slow and sure as those house frames reaching toward sky. The trial loomed. Crowley's threats shadowed the horizon. Winter would come hard and testing. But right now, in this sun-bright morning with her ranch family around her and Wade's promise on her finger, Clara Hart felt rich as queens. To the future Mrs. Carver. Silas raised his coffee cup in toast. To partnership, Clara corrected, raising her own. To both, Wade said, and his eyes held promises deeper than words. They drank to it, future bright as morning, strong as coffee, sure as the house rising by the cottonwoods, where creek sang eternal and mountains stood guard over dreams taking shape in lumber and stone, and hearts finally finding home. The night air crackled with menace. Clara woke to the sound of horses, too many, moving too quiet for honest business. She slipped from bed, reached for the shotgun that had become her sleeping companion these past weeks. Through the window, shadows moved in the yard. More than before. Crowley had brought an army this time. Tomorrow was the trial. Tonight, apparently, was his last chance to stop their testimony. She pulled on her wrapper, moving silent as smoke to Wade's door. Empty. He was already up, already aware. Down the stairs, she found him at the window, rifle ready. How many? She whispered. 20, maybe more. His jaw was granite. They're surrounding the house. The hands? Signal's already gone out, but they're scattered, some in town for supplies, others at the line shacks. He turned to her. Clara, there's a root cellar. No, she checked her loads. We decided, partners. Before he could argue, glass shattered upstairs. A torch arced through the broken window, landing on the bedroom floor. Clara's bedroom. Fire! She raced for the stairs, Wade behind her. The torch had caught the rug, flames spreading toward curtains. They stomped and beat at flames with blankets, choking on smoke. More glass breaking, the parlor, the kitchen. Torches flying like hellish birds. Too many to fight. They mean to burn us out. Wade pulled her back as flames leaped to the wall. Everyone out! Now! Martha appeared from her room, Silas behind her. Tom burst through the back door. Boss, they've got the barn surrounded too! Wade's face went deadly. The horses, 30 headlocked in stalls. Not again. They retreated to the kitchen as fire ate the upper floor. Through the window, Clara saw riders circling, torches ready, but also movement from the bunkhouse. Their people, fighting back. "We make a stand here," Wade decided. "Kitchen stone, won't burn easy. Clara, Martha, take those windows. Tom, Silas, with me!" The night exploded into gunfire. Clara fired careful, making each shell count. A rider coming too close tumbled from his saddle. Another torch dropped harmless in dirt, but there were too many. Fire roared overhead now, eating through the floor. Burning debris began falling into the kitchen. Soon they'd have to run, straight into waiting guns. "The well!" Martha shouted over the noise. "If we can reach the well house! Stone walls, good cover!" 20 yards of open ground. Might as well be miles. Wade made the choice. "Covering fire on 3. Run hard. Don't stop." They burst from the kitchen together, guns blazing. Clara ran as bullets whined past, Wade's broad back shielding her. Tom cried out, stumbled, but Silas hauled him forward. They made the well house as the kitchen roof collapsed behind them, sparks fountaining into the night sky. Their home, Wade's mother's home, dying in flames, but no time for grief. Riders circled closer, emboldened. They had cover now, but were pinned, outnumbered. Clara fed shells into her gun with steady hands, though her heart hammered terror. Then, hoofbeats like thunder. The Triple C riders swept in from 3 directions, guns speaking violence. Buck, arm still splinted but shooting steady. Jake leading a charge that scattered Crowley's line. And behind them, "That's Sheriff Daniels," Tom croaked, holding his bleeding side. "And half the town." The tide turned in minutes. Crowley's men, faced with real opposition, broke and ran. Several didn't make it, cut down in the crossfire. The rest scattered into darkness, pursued by angry townsmen who'd had enough of syndicate bullying. Clara emerged from cover to find their world changed. The house was fully engulfed, past saving. The barn, thank God the hands had reached it in time. Horses milled nervous but safe in the corrals. Wade stood watching his childhood home burn, face carved from stone. Clara took his hand, felt his fingers close crushing tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Your mother's house. You're safe. That's what matters." But his voice was rough with loss. Sheriff Daniels approached, notebook out. "Got 6 of them dead or down. Rest ran, but we know who they are. This ends tonight, Wade. Judge Patterson's issuing warrants. Crowley's done." The trial? Still tomorrow. But after this, Daniels gestured at the burning house. No jury in the county will side with him. Dawn came gray and bitter, smoke still rising from ruins. Clara stood with Wade in what had been the parlor, now just stone and ash. The ring on her finger caught light, one small beautiful thing surviving destruction. "We'll rebuild," she said quietly. "Yes," he pulled her close, "but not here. This chapter's done. The new house, that's our future." People arrived as morning strengthened, neighbors with food, blankets, offers of shelter. The barn became temporary headquarters. Clara found herself organizing, sending the wounded to be tended, coordinating supplies, making sure everyone was fed. "You should rest," Martha urged. "You've been up all night. So has everyone." Clara accepted another pot of coffee from a rancher's wife. Rest comes later. By noon, order emerged from chaos. The hands had saved most of the important things. Wade's ledgers from the office, Clara's few belongings, the rifle that had been his father's. Small salvations, but precious. Tom would heal. The bullet had passed clean through. Others bore lesser wounds, badges of courage. And word came from town. 3 of Crowley's captured men were talking, desperate to save their necks. "Trials postponed till afternoon," Sheriff Daniels reported. "Give folks time to clean up, but Crowley's in jail, his lawyer's screaming, but evidence is evidence, especially with half the county as witnesses to last night." Clara looked at her reflection in a borrowed mirror. Soot-stained, hair wild, dress ruined. But her eyes were clear, determined. "I'll need different clothes for court," she said practically. "Already handled." Martha produced a clean dress, dark blue and respectable. "Mrs. Patterson sent it over. Says to give Crowley hell. Pardon her language." The courthouse overflowed that afternoon. Clara sat straight-backed beside Wade, their hands linked. Let the county see. They were united, unbroken. Crowley looked smaller in chains, his fine clothes wrinkled. His lawyer tried, painted the Triple C as aggressors, Clara as a fallen woman, the fire as unfortunate accident. Then Clara took the stand. She told it simple. The first attack, defending the barn. The threats in the saloon. Last night's terror. Her voice never wavered, each word precise as stitches in flesh. They came to burn us out because we wouldn't sell, because we defended what was ours, because Mr. Carver is an honorable man who keeps his word, and that threatened their plans. And your relationship with Mr. Carver? The lawyer pressed. This convenient engagement? Nothing convenient about it. She met Wade's eyes across the room. Love rarely is, but it's real, it's honest, and it has nothing to do with 20 men trying to burn us alive. When she stepped down, the courtroom stirred like wind through wheat. Martha testified next, then Silas, then the captured men who sang like birds to save themselves. The jury deliberated 17 minutes. Guilty. All counts. Crowley would hang for murder. One of his men had shot a townsman in the fight. The rest faced prison. The syndicate was broken. Outside the courthouse, people pressed close, offering congratulations. But Clara only had eyes for Wade as he pushed through the crowd to reach her. "It's over," he said. "No." She touched his face, not caring who saw. "It's beginning." They were married 3 days later, in the afternoon, on the hill where the new house rose. Not the wedding Martha had planned. Grander things had burned with the old house, but perfect in its simplicity. Clara wore her mother's wedding dress, saved from her trunk and only slightly smoke-scented. Wade stood tall in his best black suit. The ranch family circled them. Hands and neighbors and friends forged in fire. Reverend Hayes spoke words old as promises. Wade's voice was steady as mountains saying his vows. Clara's rang clear as creek water over stone. "Not many couples are tested by fire before they wed," the Reverend noted. "But you've proven what matters. That love isn't just sweet words and easy times. It's standing together when the world burns. It's building from ashes. It's choosing each other not despite the dangers, but because facing them together makes you stronger." Wade kissed her as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky glory. The crowd cheered. Martha cried, and somewhere a fiddle started playing. They danced on the platform of their unfinished home. First dance as husband and wife while their people celebrated around them. No fancy ballroom, no crystal chandeliers. Just wood under their feet and stars overhead, and the knowledge that they'd earned this joy through trial. "No regrets?" Wade asked as they swayed together. "None." Clara looked up at him, her husband now, strange and wonderful. "Though I do miss the kitchen. I had that stove trained just right." He laughed, spinning her. "I'll buy you a better one. Best in the territory." "I don't need best, just need it to work." She leaned into his strength. "Like us, Mrs. Carver." He tested the name, smiled. "Going to take some getting used to. We have time. All the time in the world now, with Crowley gone and the future spreading wide before them." Later, much later, they stood alone at the building site. The celebration had moved to the barn, giving them this moment. Their temporary quarters waited. The foreman's cabin, cozy if cramped. But first, this. "We'll build it bigger," Wade said, arms around her from behind. "Grander. I deserve exactly what I have." Clara turned in his arms. "A man who keeps his word. A home we're building together. A life earned honest. Don't you dare apologize for any of it." He kissed her then, deep and claiming under the stars. When they broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "How did I get so lucky?" "Not luck," she smiled, remembering that first day. "Courage. You were brave enough to offer. I was brave enough to accept. Everything else." She gestured at the house frames, the land beyond, the life they'd defended and won. "Everything else was just work." "Just work," he repeated, amused. "Woman, you held off armies. We held them off, together." She took his hand, led him toward their temporary home. "And tomorrow we start building again, together." Behind them, the house frame stood skeleton proud against stars. Before them, the path led home, not to any building, but to each other. And in the barn, their people celebrated victory won hard, peace earned in blood, and love forged in fire that burned away everything false, leaving only what was true and strong and worth defending to the last. 5 years later, Clara stood on the porch of the house by the cottonwoods, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. Coffee steamed in her hands. Same strong brew, same quiet moment before the day's work began. But everything else had changed, grown, flourished. "Mama, look!" James, 4 years old with his father's steady eyes, held up a frog triumphant. "I caught him by the creek." "Careful, gentle hands," Clara reminded, smiling as her son examined his prize with scientific intensity. Behind him, 2-year-old Eliza toddled determined, golden curls bouncing, trying to keep up with her brother. "Frog," she announced, reaching chubby hands. "Show sister nice," James instructed solemnly, already the protective big brother. Wade emerged from the barn, talking with Silas about the day's work. 5 years had silvered his temples more, but hadn't bent his straight shoulders. If anything, he stood taller now, a man complete in his purpose. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing her cheek as he passed. Still, after all this time, that simple touch made her pulse skip. "Morning yourself. Breakfast in 20? "Yes, ma'am." He winked, scooped up Eliza, who squealed delight. "What's this I hear about frogs?" The house had grown beyond their original plans. 4 bedrooms now, with the library Clara had insisted on. Shelves lined with books, novels from back east, agricultural journals, children's primers. On Sundays after church, neighboring families often gathered here. Children sprawled on rugs while Clara read aloud. "Mrs. Carver?" Young Sarah Hendricks appeared at the door, notebook clutched nervous. "I finished the sums you gave me." "Excellent. We'll review them after breakfast." Clara had started teaching the ranch children letters and numbers. Now, 3 mornings a week, her kitchen table became a schoolroom. The county talked of building a proper school with Clara as teacher. The salary would help through lean years. Inside, Martha commanded the stove. She and Silas had their own cabin now, but still took meals at the main house. Family was family. Blood or choice. "Buck's coming for supper," Martha reported. "Says he's got news." Buck had healed clean from that long-ago break, now served as deputy sheriff. Still young, still eager, but tempered by his brush with mortality. He courted the minister's daughter with painful earnestness that reminded Clara of her own careful steps toward love. The morning flowed familiar. Breakfast served and cleared, children tended, lessons taught. But Clara caught Wade watching her sometimes, that soft look that still made her feel beautiful, despite work-worn hands and practical dresses. "What?" she asked finally, during a quiet moment in his office where she helped with accounts. "Nothing. Just thinking. Dangerous habit. 5 years ago you stepped off that train. Wouldn't give Edmund the satisfaction of seeing you bend." "Ancient history." "Foundation history," he corrected. "Everything built from that moment." Through the window, she could see the memorial they'd placed where the old house had stood. Not a monument to loss, but a marker of transformation. From those ashes, this life had grown. After lunch, unexpected visitors, a wagon rolling up bearing familiar faces. Clara's breath caught. Edmund Denton, older, thinner, hat literally in hand. Beside him, a worn woman holding a baby. "Clara, Mrs. Carver." Edmund's voice cracked slightly. Could we speak?" Wade appeared at her shoulder, solid as walls. "Denton, please," the woman spoke up. "We've nowhere else to turn." Clara studied them, the expensive clothes gone shabby, the desperate hope poorly hidden. "Come in, we'll have coffee." In the parlor, the story spilled out. Edmund's store failed. Bad investments, worse partnerships. They'd lost everything. Were heading to California for fresh starts. But the wagon broke down 10 miles out. No money for repairs. "I know I have no right to ask," Edmund said, studying his hands. "What I did to you was wrong, cowardly, but my wife, my child—" "What do you need?" Clara asked simply. Edmund's head shot up, surprise clear. "The wagon needs a new axle, maybe supplies." Wade leaned back, watching Clara. "Her choice," his posture said. "Her call. Silas can fix the wagon. Clara decided. "We'll pack food for the journey. You can rest here tonight if needed." "Why?" Edmund's wife burst out. "After what he did." Clara looked at her children playing on the rug, at Wade steady beside her, at the home they'd built from nothing but courage and work. "Because I can afford to be generous now. Because holding on to old anger is like drinking poison. Because—" She smiled slight. "Because if Edmund hadn't broken his word, I'd never have found my real life." They stayed just the night. Silas repaired the wagon. Martha packed enough food for 2 weeks. Wade contributed a small purse. "Traveling money," he said gruff, allowing no thanks. Watching them leave next morning, Edmund stopped at Clara's side. "I was a fool." "Yes," she agreed calmly, "but it worked out. For you. You got everything. Love, security, children, respect." "I earned everything," she corrected. "With blood and fire and daily choice. You wanted a convenience. Wade wanted a partner. That made all the difference." Edmund climbed onto his wagon, older and perhaps wiser. As they rolled away, his wife waved shy thanks. Clara waved back, feeling only lightness. The past had no more hold on her. "That was well done," Wade said, arm around her waist. "It was necessary, like closing a book you finished reading." That afternoon brought the promised news from Buck. He was engaged, wedding planned for Christmas. Would Wade stand as his best man? Would Clara help Jane with preparations? "Of course," they said together, remembering a boy broken and bleeding, now grown into a man ready for his own adventures. Evening came soft, painting shadows long across the land. Clara walked her usual circuit, checking chickens, gathering eggs, stopping to admire the kitchen garden that now fed half the county during harvest season. The schoolhouse plans lay on Wade's desk, ready for the town meeting next week. The lending library she'd started had grown to 3 shelves. Small things, daily things. But added together, they made a life. Supper was lively. Buck full of wedding plans, children chattering, men discussing the new bull Wade bought for breeding. Clara served and listened, watching her table surrounded by chosen family. After, in the quiet, she and Wade sat on the porch watching stars emerge. The children slept upstairs, worn out from the day's adventures. Night sounds rose around them. Crickets, a distant coyote, the eternal whisper of wind in grass. "Any regrets?" Wade asked, echoing his question from their wedding day. "One," Clara admitted. He turned, concerned. "What?" "I can't remember that frog's name. James told me 3 times. His laugh rolled across the valley. "Woman, you'll be the death of me." "Hopefully not for many years yet." She leaned into his warmth. "We have too much to do." "Such as?" "See James and Eliza grown. Maybe give them brothers or sisters. Build that school. Start a real library. Watch Buck's children play with ours. Grow old on this porch arguing about frog names." "Sounds like a lot of work. Good thing we're partners then." He kissed her temple. "Best decision I ever made, asking you to stay that day." "Second best," she corrected. "Best was not letting me leave." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their land sleep under stars. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Always did. Markets to navigate, weather to endure, children to raise, community to tend. But tonight Clara Carver sat with her husband on the porch of the house they'd built and felt the deep satisfaction of promises kept. Not the promises Edmund had broken, those paper-thin lies that dissolved at first test, but real promises, forged in crisis and tempered by daily choice. She'd wanted adventure coming west. She'd found it, though not in the shape expected. Adventure wasn't just dramatic moments, fires and gunfights and desperate stands. It was also this, quiet evenings and children's laughter and the slow accumulation of days that built a life worth living. "Happy?" Wade asked. "Complete," she answered, and meant it. Inside, one of the children called out, dreaming. Clara rose to check, paused at the door. "Wade, that first day, when the barrel almost hit me, did you think about just letting it?" "What? No. Why would you ask that?" "Would have saved you a lot of trouble. No housekeepers shooting rustlers, no midnight medical emergencies, no standoffs with syndicates." He stood, pulled her close. No partner, no wife, no children, no life worth living. His voice went rough with feeling. "Clara, That barrel would have had to go through me first. She kissed him then, 5 years of marriage making it familiar but no less sweet. When they parted, she smiled. Good answer, Mr. Carver. I have my moments, Mrs. Carver. Inside, Eliza had kicked off her blankets. Clara tucked her back in, smoothed golden curls, whispered mother's blessings. James slept sprawled like his father, taking up more space than seemed possible for one small boy. She adjusted his pillow, picked up the scattered toys. Such ordinary acts, such extraordinary privilege. The house settled around them as she and Wade prepared for bed. Through their window, the cottonwoods whispered secrets to the stars. Tomorrow the sun would rise on Triple C land, on cattle and horses and people who'd become family, on work that mattered and love that lasted and the 1,000 small victories that made up a life. But tonight, Clara Hart Carver, failed mail-order bride, successful ranch woman, teacher, mother, partner, lay beside her husband and counted blessings instead of sheep. They rose numerous as stars, bright as morning, solid as the mountains that guarded their valley. She'd traveled far to find home. But the longest journey, she'd learned, wasn't measured in miles. It was measured in courage, in choices, in the daily decision to build rather than break. And that journey? That one she'd travel gladly, every day, for all the years given. The wind sang through the cottonwoods. The creek murmured eternal. And in the house built by love and will and partnership, the Carver family slept peaceful, dreaming of tomorrows as bright as their todays. Some stories end with drama, sunset rides and final shootouts. But the best stories, Clara knew, ended like this, quietly, completely, with the promise of morning always coming and work always waiting and love always growing, deep and true as Western earth under endless sky. Thank you so much for listening to this Wild West love story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale. Are you listening during your commute, relaxing at home, or perhaps on a long drive? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps create more stories of courage, love, and adventure in the American frontier. Don't forget to share with friends who love a good Western romance.